Welcome to the weekly pivot for September 28th, 2025. So what we're going to do is we're going to review last week. We're going to talk about upcoming events. We'll talk about SPX seasonality, and we will talk about SPX analysis. So last week we talked about a 66.25 pivot. That worked great all week, especially against the hourly chart. We were able to trade that. Intraday trading was amazing last week. Day trades were absolutely immaculate all week long. We did test the swing golden gate, and that completed at the beginning of the week. Daily structure continues to hold. We tested the daily 21 again last week, and that ended up bouncing right off of it. And then barring any major drop into the end of the quarter, a green September after green summer looks likely. It looks like that stat should hold up. Next week is going to be just kind of standard fare, normal things, JOLTS job openings, ISM data, jobless unemployment, and non-farm payrolls on Friday. And I think that's going to probably be the main event. It's probably JOLTS on Tuesday and non-farm on Friday. Let's talk a little bit about our seasonality. So this is something we've been tracking for since end of August. We've been looking at this, green summers to green September stat, from the last 20 years. About 75% of the time we've had it. And it looks like this month is going to be exactly the same. Going into next month, October, I'm expecting a ton of volatility. It should be a fun month to day trade, and hopefully if we get some retracements, it'll give us some opportunities to go long into the end of the year. All right, we're just going to talk about an hourly chart and a daily chart. Let's start with the daily chart on the right. I have drawn out, yet again, all these daily 21 tests that we've had, and we got another one last week, and same result. And I don't think we should expect a different result until we start to see a change there. I mean, you can see that every single time that we've gone and tested this daily 21, even when we dip below, we've been talking about this for months now, it has held and we've continued to push higher. Now, when we start to see that structure break, then we can start to look at, maybe a little bit deeper of a retracement on a weekly chart. But for all intents and purposes, that daily 21 is your line in the sand. This 66.25, 66.30 pivot has worked great. We're going to continue to use that, and we'll talk about that in just a moment on the hourly chart on the left. Right now, it kind of looks like we're flagging into the daily ribbon, so we could get another pushback higher if we get continuation on this move. But right now, it's looking pretty good. Now, if you look at the left chart, you can see this 66.25 pivot. We talked about, if you saw my post on Twitter or Blue Sky, we talked about kind of a daily IHS. It was, we did get this right shoulder overnight before we got the drop, and we were looking for a move towards the daily 21 with a perfect measured move coming down to about 65.50, and we nearly got all of it. And so last week was just spectacular for short-term trades. Recovered our 66.25 pivot after dropping below it. That is, I think, going to continue to be a very important level going into next week. I think that there's a couple of scenarios that we could probably play out, and we can look for continuation directly, just keep pushing higher back to a 66.75, 6,700 test. We could back test this 66.25 level. If that holds as support, then we can look for a push higher. We can move a little bit lower and back test some of this demand here, closer to 6,600, and then bounce above the pivot and continue. So those are kind of the scenarios that I'm looking for. And of course, if we start to lose, this demand right here around 6,600, we can proceed down towards 65.50, retest of some of these recent wick lows. But I would kind of keep that 6,600 area as kind of line in the sand, 6,600, 6,695-ish. That held as really nice support last week. So that's kind of what I'm looking at into this week. It should be a fairly straightforward week. We've got the end of the quarter for the first 2 days. So Tuesday will be the end of the quarter. And then October starts midweek. So we're going to expect more volatility in October. And we can talk a little bit more about that as we get into the beginning of it. And we'll talk about that in next week's video. That's your weekly pivot for September 28th, 2025. I'll see you in the next one.